This week on Quality Digest Live, to mop or not to mop? That is the quality question.
Plus, we talk STEM education and learn what one major aerospace manufacturer is doing about it. That and more when we come back.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for September 2nd, 2011. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm publisher Mike Richmond. Well, did you ever find yourself in a situation where, as a customer, you saw a process going awry and thought, let me at 'em? Well, if so, then this next story is for you. Craig W. Alexander is the name of our newest columnist, our newest contributor here at Quality Digest. And Craig wrote an article in Monday's issue of Quality Digest Daily entitled, If I Only Had a Mop. I think that's the name of the title. If I only had a mop. And Craig tells the story of a situation that many of us have found ourselves in, where he was out in the real world as a consumer, and he was at a big box retailer, and it was a very rainy, wet, windy day, and he was standing kind of to the side of the entryway, and he observed the greeter doing a fine job. She was greeting the customers as they came in, as she should, and she was trying to kind of wipe down all the carts, the shopping carts, and keep them dry, and do her best to make it a good experience. But however, Craig noticed, the customer certainly noticed, that as the day kind of proceeded a little bit, that floor was getting wetter and wetter and slipperier and slipperier, and she at one point even said to a customer, she said, well, gosh, I wish I could really solve the situation by having a mop that would make it much better, but they wouldn't let me have one. So, of course, who are they, right? They sure. Being management, right? Wouldn't let me have one. Now, whether or not it really was management that didn't let her have the mop, or whether she just couldn't get a mop or didn't have time.
Maybe she didn't ask.
Maybe she didn't ask. Who knows? But as Craig pointed out in the article, gosh, I mean, the floors in the place were clean. Obviously, there are mops in the janitorial room somewhere back there she could have grabbed. They had mops for sale. She could have grabbed one, I'm sure, from the store, and then she could have used that and mopped up the floor a little bit and kept it dry. Obviously, this is an opportunity for a manager. It would have been a good opportunity for a manager to take advantage of a Gemba walk, get down to the floor of the retailer, see the process in place, and see that this was a problem. Maybe devise a process to help solve this. But didn't happen. So Craig kind of riffed on why that didn't happen and what the situation would be. Really, if you look at this and you think about it, and all of us have been in the situation where we've been, again, as I say, out in the real world as customers, and we're interacting with a retailer or a call center, whatever it is, and we see a process in place and we say, gosh, I'm a quality professional. I deal with process all day long, and I deal with trying to improve those processes, and I see that this is wrong. This could be better, right? So, but what do you do about it? How do you make it better? And really, his suggestion is, which I think is the right one, is that employee needs to be empowered. The example that came to my mind, he didn't use this example in his story, but the story that came to my mind was the Ritz-Carlton thing. We've talked about Ritz-Carlton a lot. Ritz-Carlton, as many of you know, is a Baldrige winner, and obviously they're a very well-known hotel and resort company, and they have many hotels across the world. Ritz-Carlton has a policy, it's been a long-standing policy in place, where any employee at any time can, at their discretion, have, I believe it's $1,000, maybe it's $2,000 now, but some fairly large amount of money to make any customer problem go away. Customer comes to a bellhop, or a customer comes to a person,
a desk clerk
or whatever it may be, a restaurant worker, and says, hey, I've got this problem in my room, or I need this done, or whatever it may be. And if it's a problem with the Ritz-Carlton they can solve, they're authorized to spend $1,000.
They don't have to go to management, they just do it.
There's no chain of command involved with that. They just simply say, hey, we trust you. The management said, we trust you. You're the person on the spot. You understand what needs to be done. Do it. Make that problem go away, so that the customer understands that you really care care, that you really are involved in what they need to do and what they need to have a better experience.
Right.
It's a great idea. Now, $1,000, $2,000, I don't know if everybody can be empowered to spend that much. Certainly a clerk at a big box retailer, you know, a greeter, you know, certainly not. But I mean, to go grab a mop off the shelf, let's say, and mop it up, or to run back and have the janitor or janitorial staff come out and mop that up for you, you should be empowered to do that, you know.
Right.
And again, I think it comes down to this idea of the Gemba walk, and Gemba walking is something that a lot of you are familiar with, where, you know, you walk the process. You get out of, if you're a manager, you get out of your corner office and you go down to where the process is happening, and you walk it. You understand exactly what situations that worker is facing in his or her day, so that it's not just theoretical, you know, and it's not just reported. You know, the worker doesn't say to the manager, well, I'm having this problem, this is what I think would make it better. Well, that's all well and good, and that should happen, that does happen, but it's not as powerful as the manager getting out of that space, going down to whatever it may be. In this case, it was a retail entryway, and seeing what's going on, or going down to a shop floor, the factory floor, whatever it may be, to see it, to experience that process for him or herself. That's what really helps, I think, to improve those processes and embed them in the organization, because workers can always come up with solutions, but managers are the ones that have to scale it down through the organization.
I agree with all that, and I think that's all very valid. I think the manager has to go out to the floor and see what's going on. I do see the other side of this, though, and the author, you know, Craig just touches on this a little bit. It is, and we get into a kind of a tricky area here. It is also, I believe, the employee's duty to go to management and say, now obviously they have to feel comfortable doing that, but very often, and I've experienced this in a lot of companies, you'll have an employee, they're complaining about, quote, management. Well, you know, I need this and I need that, and how come they aren't doing this, and how come they aren't doing that? And I'll ask, well, did you go talk to Joe? No. Right. Well, okay.
How do you know that?
Maybe if you let them know you had a problem, he'd help you take care of it. I mean, but the flip side of that is sometimes you have an organization where the employees, maybe it would be okay if they went for the manager, but for whatever reason, there's a feeling that I can't do this.
You know what it is? It's a pronoun problem. It's an us versus them.
Us versus them.
Whenever I hear a person who's working and is not a manager, and is a worker, let's just use the shorthand for this, says, they won't let me, that's creating a separation in the organization. That's creating this idea that you're not empowered to create solutions in the organization. It's somebody else's role, somebody else's responsibility to take care of that.
And now we've come full circle.
That's right.
If they don't feel empowered, it's probably because they're not.
It's probably a good point. It's probably management not creating a culture where they can feel empowered, but also they themselves not taking on the responsibility. Now, an interesting little side note to this story, which I thought was, in some ways, the most fascinating part of this whole thing was, Craig mentions that this particular retailer had a situation just like weeks before where a customer had slipped and fallen on a grape.
On a exactly.
It wasn't a wet floor, but it was a grape that was on the floor, and
I had to settle a liability.
I think there was a liability suit involved. That was the subtext. But so you would think that this would be like a laser focus for this manager. Would say, well, hey, we've had a problem with our floors. Obviously, we've got to keep our floors safe and dry and clean, and because we can't have people slipping on our floors, right? But in this case, obviously not. They kind of went by the board. So context is a big thing, and understanding where you're at and what's going on in the organization to put some focus on something like this, which is an easy fix. It should be an easy fix, but we've seen so many of these things happen that, you know, in theory, you look at it as Craig did as a consumer. You know, he's not a consultant working with the store. He's a customer outside of it, looking at it and saying, "Give me the bob. I'll do it." So, but interesting story, and this is one of those nice quick hit stories, only a few hundred words that you like, we like. It gives some good practical wisdom for how to improve quality. And
just absolutely right. You need to give your employees the tools they need to get their job done.
Whatever it takes.
And guess what? That just happens to be somewhat topic of our next story.
Really?
In a way.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Segues.
Well, you know, we told you last week that we were going to spend some time over the next 2 weeks talking about a topic that is really important to us here at Quality Digest, and we're talking education. many of our readers work in technical industries like aerospace, automotive, alternative energy, or nuclear industries. And they tell us that one of their biggest problems is that they have more senior skilled engineers and technologists retiring than they have skilled replacements knocking on their door wanting jobs.
Coming in, sure.
And this has been in the news a lot recently. We've all heard that there are fewer and fewer U.S. students taking an interest in and pursuing technical careers. Now, to address this, there's something called STEM, and STEM is an educational program. STEM stands for, and that's S-T-E-M, stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And it's a curriculum that's introduced, I think, mostly at the middle school level. And it's been shown that introducing STEM topics at that age, at that school level, increases the chances that these students will take an interest in science and technology later in their school career. We kind of call it stacking the deck.
That's right.
Exactly. So, you know, we've all been to middle school and experienced math and science and other subjects, and we know that if you want something like that to interest students, it has to be fun.
Fun,
right?
exciting.
And not only that, the teacher's got to be motivated to teach. It's got to be exciting for them to teach too. Well, how fun? When we think about fun, what I think about fun is weightless.
Weightlessness.
Weightlessness is fun.
I love it.
We've all seen pictures of astronauts training for a weightless environment. They're inside a plane. You've seen them bouncing off the walls, doing somersaults, you know, trying to drink water as it's like globules are floating all over the place, right? We've seen that.
Great stuff.
That's just the opportunity that the Northrop Grumman Foundation is giving teachers as part of its STEM outreach program. And it's a program called Weightless Flights of Discovery. And, well, it's exactly what it sounds like.
It sounds like, yep.
We had a chance to interview CARLEEN BESTE, who's the corporate manager for community relations at Northrop Grumman, earlier this week, and she tells us a little bit about what the teachers can expect in this next clip.
Basically what happens is that they board the plane, and then the plane flies parabolas, and then the low gravity environment that you would typically see on the moon, the Mars, and then complete weightlessness is stimulated through their flight.
And then I understand the students ahead of time. The students and the teachers come up with some interesting experiments that they can run, right?
Correct. So we just concluded our workshops. The teachers are required to participate in a workshop, and they develop experiments or start thinking about experiments that they want to perform while they are in flight. And then they go back and they work with their students as well to talk a little bit about the experiment, maybe further develop them. And then they can start talking about the types of results that a student might expect to see and what do they think will happen. And then obviously they go on flight, they perform the experiment, and they can come back and they can bring that experience into the class.
So that looked like a lot of fun to me. People inside are playing ping pong balls going all over the place. Now, as CARLEEN pointed out, the goal isn't just to let the teachers have some well-deserved fun, although it looked like they were actually having a blast there.
Of course.
The goal in this case was to teach microgravity concepts to students. Now, so far, Northrop Grumman has given more than 1,200 teachers this opportunity. That's 1,200 really excited teachers that then get to go back and spread their excitement with their students. And this excitement, as I mentioned up front, is really important because this is a tough job. Teachers have a tough job, and it's during tough times, tough economic times, and sometimes it can be pretty demotivating not having the tools you need or large class sizes. And so injecting something unusual and motivating is really valuable for teachers. This is how CARLEEN put it. We roll this.
I think on a personal level for an educator is if you look at the environment that they're dealing with today with budget constraints and, you know, no professional development opportunities and increased class sizes, you know, all these things that we see happening across the country in education right now. This is something that makes them feel really special. I think it energizes how they feel about their career and the choice that they made to be a teacher. And I think that it becomes a professional development opportunity like no other probably that they'll see.
So we have one of those teachers that CARLEEN was talking about, who gets motivated by these programs. On the phone with us right now, we have Paul Brown. Paul, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Awesome. So, Paul, tell us what school you represent here.
I'm at O'Hare Park School. It's a middle school. We teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in Oakley, California. That's about 45 miles east of San Francisco.
So you're on the Sacramento Delta.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. And well, this sounds like pretty exciting. I mean, are you excited? You get to go weightless.
I tell you what, it was about a year and a half ago when I was searching the web for lesson plans for students to get them interested in other stuff, and I ran across this Northrop Grumman Foundation Weightless Flights of Discovery, and I clicked on it and clicked on the videos on that and saw these teachers going weightless, and I was like, oh my, I have to do that. So I went to apply for it, but the 2011 program was, the year before that was all full up. So I bookmarked it, and this year I was checking their website every week until the application process started. And once I found that, put in my application, and a couple months later, I got the word that I'm going up.
That's awesome. So, I mean, now you just came back from some sort of training program, is that right?
Yeah, about a week and a half ago or so, we went down to Northrop Grumman, and we had a briefing on what to expect on the flight, and we got together in groups, 4 teachers of us. We're putting together 4 experiments to do on the weightless flight. We videotape those experiments, and then we bring those experiments back into the classroom and show the kids and integrate them into their the program.
And so, have you've actually decided on experiment?
Yeah, one of the experiments I'm doing is the effect of magnetic repulsion on magnets itself. So I created this little plastic bottle. I put a dowel in it, and I put these round magnets so they repulse each other. And under gravity, you can see the magnets on the bottom are squished together. So we're theorizing that when we go weightless, the magnets will evenly space themselves out. So once we have video on that, we'll show it back in the classroom. I'll get the students involved with that also, and we'll make some predictions and show them the video. Another experiment I have is just having objects in a bottle and watching them go weightless. And then we also have a kitchen scale, and we'll put an object on the kitchen scale, and when we go weightless, we'll see that kitchen scale go to 0.
Now, I understand that part of what happens here is that the students, you discuss with the students what they expect to see happen. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, we'll integrate it when we go over Newton's laws of motion, Newton's first law, second law, third law, and once we get into those different laws, I'll show some videos, and we'll say, hey, which law is this? Is it 1, 2, or 3? And it just helps solidify the Newton's laws of motion with something that their teacher is doing, and they see their teacher up there, and they get excited and motivated.
Now, Paul, how many kids do you have in your class?
You know, I have about 30 kids in each class, and I have 6 classes a day, so I have about anywhere from 175 to 180 students.
Now, of those kids, how many would you estimate have going into this have an interest in STEM? How many have you talked to or talking about STEM careers at some point down the line?
You know, I've been talking about STEM careers since the first week of school, and you know, everyone is interested in science. It's just a natural curiosity that children have. It's when they start to get older and you know, they're not as motivated to study science. That, you know, science becomes too hard or math is too hard. They're not motivated, and you know, they follow a different career. So the Northrop Grumman Foundation, the weightless flights here, is just an excellent opportunity to get them motivated, to see their teacher out there, because it makes it personal for them. And once they're motivated, they kind of tend to stick with it.
Do you besides something like an organized program like this, you know, obviously this is something that comes from Northrop Grumman, and I know there's other programs out there. Is there something else that would be helpful for these students, that people like Mike or myself or local companies there in Oakley or Antioch or Pittsburgh, that's Pittsburgh, California for you guys. Is there other ways for kind of just the community to help generate an interest in science and technology and so forth?
Yeah, there's different programs in our community here, and I'm sure there's different programs in every community. And just making contact with the school and saying, hey, I can volunteer, I can come in and speak about what I do if it's science related, math related, and that way the kids have a connection to someone, something. And it's just not something that they're reading out of a book or a teacher is telling them about, but they can interact with that person. Either whether it's just one person coming into the classroom, or even on a career day, organizing a career day, getting kids motivated right now for science, technology, education, math, to fill those positions that are being vacated by older workers is something that is important not only to the companies but to the United States as well.
So, what is this? What do you think this is going to mean for you? This experience is going to mean for you personally, and what do you hope it will do for your students when you come back and are able to share your experience there on the flight?
I showed them videos of the weightless flights of Discovery, and I got reactions from that, like, oh, that's cool, and Mr. Brown, to like, wow, you get to go on that? No way, can I go? And
can I go?
Yeah. And I explained the weightless flights of Discovery program to them, and they're fascinated. They're curious about that. So when I can take those experiments on the plane that I'm doing, bring them back into the classroom, and they can actually touch them, feel them, they're getting excited. They're getting motivated for science, for that technology. It's a great program, and as far as myself, man, I cannot tell you how lucky I am to get involved with this program. It is something that I will use for the rest of my teaching career. I've shown video of astronauts floating in space when I integrate that part into my program, my teaching lessons. But to integrate myself in video, weightless, is it's motivating for me. It's going to be motivating for the students, and what you really want is a motivated teacher teaching students, because that's how they get motivated also.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry to interrupt there, but the what you're saying about motivation, you didn't hear the clip that we ran from. I don't think you could hear it on your end. Clip that we ran from Carly BESTE at Northrop Grumman, but that was kind of her feeling, is that the real value of this program is that it really gets the teachers excited, it makes them motivated, it gives them a tool that they can come back and share with their students and get their students excited.
That's the best part of this, really. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's great. Well, Paul, I appreciate you taking some time away from your teaching, and just, man, I hope we get to meet up with you again. We are actually going to try to maybe meet up with Paul after his flight, ideally, and find out how it went, and kind of get his after-flight experience.
Yep.
That sounds like something we can do, Paul?
That sounds excellent idea.
Okay,
great. Glad to come back and share with you.
Well, Paul, thanks for joining us, and we'll try to get you back on the show again.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Now, that was Paul Brown, a teacher with O'Hara Middle School in Oakley, California. Now, Northrop Grumman, who sponsors this, is their program, the Weightless Flights of Discovery, spends about $30 million a year total on charitable giving, and about $4.5 million of that goes to STEM programs. Next week, we'll have another organization, SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers. They also invest in STEM education. And so this is great. You know, industry is stepping up. It's exactly what we want.
Absolutely.
But what about you and me? And I asked Carly this question, and I expected her answer would be, well, you know, there needs to be more companies doing what Northrop Grumman does. We need to see more, you know, industries and companies stepping up and, you know, having programs like. That's not what she said.
That's not what she said, right?
What do you think she said?
Well, I think she said that it's on you and me. And
you got it.
That we have to take the responsibility and be the change we seek to make in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great that you got companies like Northrop Grumman and SAE and the CMSC who we work with closely.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of companies out there who recognize that there's a need out there to get students involved, and the companies are out there spending money. But those are just a handful of companies. It's really up to you and I who work in this industry to get involved. Paul talked about it. You know, when I asked him what community do. You come down and you share. You be a mentor, or you know, if your company makes a cool product, well, gosh, a middle school would love you to come in and share this product and show what it does, all the bells and whistles and it whirs and lights blink and all that. So that's cool. Kids love that stuff, and it gets them interested in it.
You know, there's a lot of things we do here at Quality Digest, a lot of things we talk about. This is really one of the most important things we talk about, because we hear it repeatedly from our users that, you know, who's coming up? How are we in this country developing the next generation of engineers? How are we going to have people who are going to be able to take over, as we say, for the people that are leaving, to take those roles? And this is a way we can do that, is to embrace and help STEM education wherever that we can.
And the thing that works with STEM is, as you've seen in this example, and as we'll see next week with SAE's program, is the reason it works is it draws that connection for kids about what math and science and all these things are studying, you know, what they connect to. I mean, you're in school and you're like, oh, algebra, you know, where am I going to, trigonometry, where am I going to use, it makes no sense, right? I mean, but when they see the connection, they see these, you know, they talk about weightlessness. Well, now, hey, remember, we're talking about Newton and gravity, and now we can do a gravity experience. Now we can tie that back into when we were talking, remember kids when we were talking about Newton? Here you go, and then this is where all comes into place, right? When kids can make that connection, that's when the light bulbs go off.
Kids are very practical, and kids are very concrete, and the way that kids learn is they learn through practical, concrete examples, and you have to give them that. If it's too much theory, if it's too ethereal, it's not going to sink in. It's going to be, like you say, how am I ever going to use this, trigonometry, you know? When they see what trigonometry means, algebra, geometry, all of that, in play, in the tools and the jobs that are exciting and cool and interesting, then you have something. Then you can begin to have these kids take it to the next level.
So, to wrap up this week's segment, get involved. Get your company involved. Get yourself involved. If you're a technologist, go to your kid's school. Excuse me. Do a show and tell. Bring a bunch of kids to your plant if that's possible. Bring your equipment to the school. You make robotic arms, robots. Oh man, are you kidding? Set a robot up in the classroom and have it do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have kids just mobbing you. Hey, pick me up with the robot. I mean, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. So that's the goal. And we're going to talk about this some more next week when we talk with the SAE, the Society for Automotive Engineers.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Dirk. And thanks, Paul. That was a really great segment.
Yeah, I really thank Paul and also O'Hara Middle School and the district for, he has to clear that with all that. You know, he's got to jump through a bunch of hoops. They were all very gracious in letting Paul come on the show as well. So.
As well as, of course, of Northrop Grumman and
Northrop
CARLEEN.
Grumman,
And Carly for coming on as well. So that was all great stuff. Well, before we close, I want to touch on one other technology aspect that we have coming up. We have an episode of Technerazi Live coming up, and it's from another great place to see technology and robots and all sorts of cool stuff. Quality Expo, which all of us know is in McCormick Place in Chicago, from September 20th to the 22nd.
Right, big show.
Big show, and we're always there, and we look forward to seeing you there too. On the first day of that show, on the 20th, we'll be doing an episode of Technerazi Live with Creaform, one of our partners, and Creaform will be showing off a new product. And we don't want to say too much about it because it's new, but it's going to be very exciting. We're very excited to bring it to you. So be on the lookout. In the next few weeks, we'll be bringing you some information about how you can register for that event. Check out our next episode of Technerazi Live, hosted by my partner, Dirk Ducharme.
And talking about interesting technology that should come into the classroom, all these little 3D scanning and 3D printing and stuff.
All that stuff.
Man.
all that stuff. So yeah, check out Quality Expo. Absolutely, if you're in the area, if you can get out to Chicago later this month, it's always a good experience.
Yeah. And by the way, a lot of these trade shows, actually that's a good point. A lot of these trade shows do have a means by which you can bring students in to see the shows for free. You know, they don't get to go to any of the seminars or stuff, but they can walk the show floor. And
see a
very
lot of
often, particularly at Expo, you'll see high school students come in, and it's a great way to expose them to technology.
Absolutely. And again, if you can't be at the show in Chicago, certainly please be right there and check out our episode of Technology Live on the 20th. That's going to be at I believe it's noon local time. And I think it's a 1
o'clock local.
1 p.m. Eastern, noon local in Chicago, and 10 a.m. here on the West Coast.
Something like that. I'm not. Yeah.
You'll see the
marketing. We don't know what it is. We'll send you an email.
You'll have the email. You'll see what time it is.
All right. Well, thanks you once again for joining us for Quality Digest Live.
Yep.
And we will see you next week at the same time.
Yeah, we'll be here. Have a great weekend.
So long.